Does anybody at the organization, do you or your colleagues there, pay any attention to the chatter?
Well, I think as human beings, it's natural, that you pay attention to some degree what people are saying. It's good from many perspectives. It's also good, frankly, it's good common sense if you're trying to run a business from a business perspective, right? I think it's important. You need to know what customers and consumers are saying, but at the same time, you cannot allow yourself to be detracted from your mission by these voices, right? So if there's a legitimate concern, of course you want to address it. But in the same respect, there's a lot of people who are impatient for information, and rightfully so. I get it. We're human beings. We want our information. We want it now. And why are you holding back? But sometimes you have to let the right people in the right positions digest information, right? Sometimes you can't expect a 10-course meal to be digested all in one bite. It just can't happen. And for some people, this UAP issue, they're really learning about it for the first time, despite what they may have seen on popular TV or something like that, or maybe on a movie. This is really the first time they're being told, hey, listen, Jack or Jane, this is a serious topic. This is something that your Department of Defense has been tracking. You probably want to learn a little bit more about what's going on and what they're seeing.
Can you say much, what can you say about what comes next? You've dropped hints that big stuff is coming next year, 2019. Give me some areas where people might hear some news.
Sure. So, when you say something big is coming, what does that mean? What can mean a whole bunch of things. From my perspective, my goal has always been being able to get the right information to the right people in the right places. That's really what it is about for me. And informing those individuals so decisions can be made, so we can really take a look at this issue from a holistic, a collective perspective. And then have that information get to a point where now the government's doing its job and informing people, right? So it shouldn't be World According to Lue Elizondo. It shouldn't be Lue informing everybody. It should be those in those positions that have that authority to inform the American people, and my job is to facilitate that process. But I think in the course of doing that, we've made significant progress in certain key areas. I think we have a much better understanding of the breadth and scope that the Department of Defense has played in recent times, not historical back to talk 40s and 50s. I'm talking very recent. Regarding the UFO phenomena. I think people would be surprised to know just how frequent and the volume in which these things are apparently recorded and observed by active duty military people on missions around the world, by the way. There's also some very interesting, I think, congruencies, some interesting relationships that are just now really coming into light for the very first time. New information that I think if people found out would be very, very surprised. I think some people might be a little bit apprehensive and scratch their head and say, wow, what does that mean for the rest of us? Other people might say, aha, I told you so, right? So it depends on who in the audience will be listening, but I think there's something for everybody. I think at the end of the day, information is information, and you're going to do with that information whatever it is you want to do with it. That's not up for me to decide. That's up for you to decide. That's up for the audience to decide. Ultimately, I think it's about informing the people, informing individuals about what we have discovered.
Is there a form of physical evidence that's indisputable that we're going to know about?
I think there's a lot of things out there that we're looking into to include tangibles in a real sense that will hopefully allow us to have a more comprehensive conversation. I don't want to lead the cart before the horse. There's a lot of analysis, there's a lot of homework that needs to be done, and probably the most irresponsible thing that I could do right now is say one thing one way, and it turns out to be something else. So we remain, cautiously optimistic, right? And we're going to leave no stone unturned. And so far, the stones that we have turned over, some have yielded some really pretty fantastic results. but we still have a lot more stones to turn over.
Your first year, you've taken a lot of lumps from some crowds, including some of your former colleagues. Has that turned around a little bit? Are there now doors that have opened in terms of interest in this? If you can address that at all without giving something away?
Yes, there is definitely, I can say as a matter of fact, there seems to be finally a slight turning of the tide. There are now individuals that are more receptive to having the conversation than they were even just a year ago. And data is forthcoming. So that's a good thing. I mean, data is beginning to flow in the direction it's supposed to flow in, and decisions can now finally be made that need to be made. So that's in fact, from my perspective, that's a huge accomplishment. But at the same time, we also have to respect these individuals' privacy. We have to respect their professional positions and allow them to collect as much data as they can before they really do anything with it. Keep in mind, there's a lot of data out there, right? And it would be almost a dereliction of duty for anybody to make a decision preemptively without having all the necessary data in front of them.